Call this Topsham Select Board meeting to order November 3, 2022 from the Donald A. Russell Meeting Room. Would you all please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Patty, would you call that roll?
David Douglas. Marie Brilliant. Here. Bruce Lyons. Matt Nixon.
Present.
Roland Tubbs.
Here.
And the town manager, Derek Skripchansky, is also at the table.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Town manager's report.
Okay, welcome everyone. Today was the last day to submit absentee ballots. Town clerk Linda Dumont has informed me that 2,873 absentee ballots were issued. 2,552 ballots were returned and accepted. Our town clerks and 3 part-time election clerks worked a combined total of 185 hours processing ballots and voter registration requests. This past Tuesday, November 1st, a team of 10 processed 1,920 absentee ballots between the hours of 10 and 4:30 p.m. Representatives of the Green, Independent, Republican, Democratic parties were present to inspect the ballots and applications 1 hour before they were processed. The workers were also observed by a poll watcher for several hours. The feedback was positive from all that work involved. So thank you, Linda and the team for a successful absentee ballot period. The election will be held on Tuesday, November 8th at Mount Ararat High School. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'd like to thank the superintendent of schools and SAT 75 and the high school principal for allowing this application again this year. And looks like we'll have a cooperative agreement for years to come to have it there. The town clerk has scheduled 32 election officials to work the polls. Public works personnel will be setting up and taking down the polls, and members of other departments will assist as needed. I believe our assistant town manager will be a parking attendant.
I'll do your best.
You gonna wear your robe, Tom?
Yeah, we will have police presence there just in the. And again, the voters have been very positive so far and express their gratitude for the convenience and availability of absentee and in-person early voting here at Town Hall. Some news just to bring to your attention. We've been informed by Midcoast Hospital that routine interfacility patient transfers have become a critical issue and will continue to have an impact on the region, resulting in patient diversion delays. And this has been going on for a period of time. This is due to the decline of local EMS businesses, specifically Northeast Mobile Health Services and fulfilling contractual obligations. Northeast also contracts with Bodenham for emergency medical services. And I was informed today that Northeast gave Bodenham a 30 days notice that their service will shortly. This has proven to be extremely unfortunate, will have an impact on regional EMS agencies. Bodenham town manager, again, Midcoast is working on some sort of solutions right now. But we'll continue to monitor this up here. Topsham supply, we have great coverage, but it continues to be a strain on our services. We do have empty shifts that we have to fill, but the chiefs over there doing a great job, keeping it going. So, municipal offices and non-emergency services will be closed on November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. And lastly, I'd like to welcome Mr. Steve Conley, SAT 75's superintendent, to meet all of you and provide you with an update. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Finally, jump on up. Correct. You're the next contestant.
Hello. Good. Okay. Very nice to see you folks tonight. Hello.
Hello.
Evening. Evening. It seems like every place I've gone in town, I find people that I'm looking at saying, wait, I know you. Marie and I see each other almost every day, I think. Dave and I stood next to each other. I think it was the 38-6 first quarter score in the football game. And I think we did probably 9 high fives during that first quarter. But anyways, all good stuff. I've had a chance to meet with Mark and Derek to talk about the community and the schools working together. And your wife's a Woodside teacher, right?
Yeah.
You look like you thought about that.
No. In Harvard education.
Wait a minute. She works for the DOE?
Yeah,
Oh, Jessica,
that's correct.
not oh, we have a teacher whose name is the same as your last name over here. Jessica Nixon. Okay, I'll be nice. I'll be nice.
All right.
And we've met. So I appreciate the opportunity to see folks out and about. It's always great. We're glad to host the upcoming elections for the town of Topsham. We believe strongly in the one town concept that the schools are primarily a place for students to attend to engage in learning, and they're a place for the community to enjoy learning and also recreational and other activities of citizenry. So we're pleased for the opportunity. I started July 1st. I've been conducting a thing, it's an entry plan that I refer to as a listen and learn tour. I try to remember an attribution to Mark Twain, which is, if I was meant to talk twice as much as listen, I would have 2 miles in one ear. So I try to come in and say, tell me what's going on. It would be fairly easy as a superintendent to, or a director of an organization, let's say, to say, I'm going to choose these kinds of things for my goals for right now. Do those fit in every circumstance? No. Do you want general goals, or do you want specific goals? Do you want to drive at specific actions? So my idea is, I want to learn things from people I've met on the Listen and Learn tour. I've met with student groups, all the select boards now. I've met with board of directors for it. I've met with staff, administration. So I've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces of information to tell me what people think of the strengths, the needs of the schools, what are the pieces that really drive and motivate people, what are the things that are a dream. So I'm going to touch base with one of you two tomorrow to get the email addresses for everyone here, so that I can send out a copy of my Listen and Learn tour or survey for selectmen. It's I would appreciate it if you take the time to complete that. It's fairly lengthy, 27 questions. I'm kidding. It's only got 5 questions. The first one's the hardest. What town do you represent? After that, these are text answers, long text answers. What are the strengths of MSAD 75 schools? The second question, what do you believe would make our schools more effective? The third question, if you were me, what are the 3 things you would focus on first? Not the first thing you'd focus on 3 times. Please try to give me 3 good things. I think my favorite answer to this question so far, it's almost identical. The version that I give to students is a little bit different, but it's the same idea. And a 5th grader said to me, she said, can I put down under, let's see, what 3 things would I focus on? She said, can I put breadsticks? What? Can I put breadsticks? Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Yeah, well, last spring we had breadsticks, and you could get those at the lunch line, and they had cheese, and you could dip it in there. Those were great, but we only had them that one time. I would get you some breadsticks. So I owe some breadsticks. What are your expectations of me? And if you have other things that you would like to add in there to tell me, that's great. I feel like I was supposed to be connected to this district a long time ago. My grandmother, her last name was Levy, and she was born in Cummings Harbor, and she lived in Harpswell, and her father was a schooner captain until they moved to Portland while she was still in her school ages. And I was talking with Heidi O'Leary, who is the special education director, and I mentioned that I have, some history there. She what's your grandmother's name? I said, Eleanor LaBeige. Mine's Priscilla LaBeige. I said, we can't work here. So, but we've decided to keep her on. Then in Bowdoin, her husband's last name is Spear, and there's a Spear family plot that I couldn't find right now if I had to. But it's just about everybody on his side of the family was from Bowdoin. And I asked when I was at their select meeting, can you tell me where that plot would be? And the person that had the paperwork pulled it out and said, well, there are 105 cemeteries that are on our register. I thought, of course there are. All the farms and in the family gatherings and so forth, the areas that were developed by family, and as they spread out, no wonder. So I'm on a hunt to figure that one out. So I really, I live in Gorham, on the Gorham-Buxton line. I'm literally one more house past mine and you're in Buxton. So I don't have a lot of experience as far as knowing the towns, the communities here intimately. I have my wife's relatives are they're north of us, Alstead, some other place, South Thompson. So I've done a lot of driving through areas, but I'm really glad to be here and to have this opportunity. I've met an awful lot of nice people. I found the students to be very friendly. That started even when I was just doing the school tour. The kids would take the time to just say hello as I was passing them in the halls. Once I was hired earlier this year, I was going in door number 6 at the high school, the side door. Going towards that, a student was coming out and he said hi to me and he held the door and then he said, am I supposed to do this for you? Well, because am I supposed to go around the front and sign in and check in and so forth? I just said, you can if you want, you don't have to get a key. So whatever makes you comfortable. So it's been a really nice start. I appreciate the opportunity. I've been a superintendent for most of a decade in York County in Noble. So and I've been a long time educator. I've got some years going. So it's something that I've always enjoyed. I want to work very closely with the representatives of the community, with you folks, and I would like to make sure that we're putting forth when it comes time. I recognize that the school budget, 75% of my school budget is personnel, probably at least 2/3 to 3/4 of your budget has to do with schools and the cost there. I recognize that. I want to make sure that I work to support. Primary goal is to support learning, what the students need, and how do we do that in a fiscally responsible way as possible. I know that the ESSER, or what's referred to as ESSER, the COVID funds are going to be going away as of September in 2023, so I won't have some of those positions to rely on. I know that we've got, you may have been reading an article that was in the Crier that mentioned that we were down 23 positions in special education. We're down, at this time, 10, might go up to 12 people in transportation. We're doing as much as we can do to try to hook people and connect people. We've got videos going, we've put out informational pieces to, I was hoping there were some firefighters who might say, or EMTs who might say, wait a minute, you can meet my schedule, that's a really kind of an odd thing, or I've got this other job and I've got this and you can work with me on that. I didn't realize that. So anybody out there listening, if you would like to talk to us about being a substitute in schools, subbing as a bus driver, or if you've ever thought about being a bus driver, but you don't have the CDL and the what's called the S&P endorsement, we will pay for it. We can start people out as van drivers and move them up the line, so we can get people into employment in a very short period of time. So whatever we can do, Derek, I know you've got some nights free, whatever it is you'd like to do,
Yeah.
I can, if I got a trip for you. Okay. So, I'd like to see what kinds of questions people might have for me.
Steve, what I didn't hear on your listen and learn groups were interactions with parents. What's, because that's me. And mine will be filled out from the perspective of a parent, even though you want it from the select board member. What's your plan to reach out with parents?
So part of the reach out to the parents is I try to be present. I try to go to select boards. I go to sporting events. I go to community events. I try to be at different places. That's one thing. Try to be relational. I have an open door policy. If people contact me and they have things that they want to talk about, my door is open. I will address topics with people. I'm not concerned about that. Have them come in and pull up a chair, offer them a water and tell me what's on your mind. I think also I'll do periodic letters in some local papers. I'll also do I have the messenger system that we have at school, and I put out a couple of pieces through that. I have a superintendent YouTube that I'm starting. It's actually for students. It's for children. It's where picture. You've got some. I think some people might remember heard of the name Fiorello LaGuardia. Used to read to kids. Former mayor of New York and the airport and the whole thing. I want to be online, have a YouTube presence, read books to students, see if I can connect them to the topic of literacy, interest them that way. We have a district Facebook page, and it's our website and our Facebook presence needs to be. We need some updating and some enhancing. It's been very difficult to do that to this point because the department has 4 staff members, and for a significant length of time, it was down to, as 5 people, it was down to 3. So, especially coming off from COVID, where it was 1-to-1, we've got over, I think it's 3,200 of these in people's hands. So it's really kind of changed the game. Some of our other resources like phone lines and so forth have gone voice over internet provider. There's a lot more that's on their plate and they have less people to work with. So we're working on developing our branding, our presence, our accessibility through that medium.
So parents just free to reach out and that's their listen and learn opportunity.
I will win people. This is no joke. I have an identical twin brother. If somebody sees me walking around in Freeport, he lives in Freeport. Somebody sees me walking around, he's like, hey, Mr. Connolly, he's gonna say, you must be talking to the wrong guy. Nobody calls me Mr. anything. So his name is John. He's okay. He's all right. I thanked my parents after 35 years. I think I finally thanked them for having me. Rivalries. Yeah, I think if people would like the opportunity to reach out to me, my goal is to be accessible.
To follow up on what Chairman Bevel said, my question is on curriculum, and are you open for discussion? Is the school board open for discussion with parents that have concerns over certain curriculums going on?
So
There's been so much controversy, it's all you hear, so I just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah, so it's a really hypercharged issue
It is.
right now. And there's polarized, the reason it's hypercharged is just polarized opinions. So I think the best thing to do in those cases is to be open and upfront and have dialogue. So any of the school board meetings, any citizen is able to come and to speak at the public input session. And if there are things that are questions that we think should get some attention, in particular follow-up, and how do we let people know what's going on, Plus, we do consistently do presentations on curriculum, instruction and assessment at those meetings. It could be an occasional workshop, or Dr. Hersey, the assistant superintendent, might be presenting on data, whatever it happens to be. So the curriculum should not be a mystery piece that people don't know what it is or wonder why is this in here and so forth. I think it should be something that's known by the community as well.
So this is a macro question. So this is a macro question for you. So what do you think the biggest challenges of educating kids in the state of Maine today?
So whether it's a student in the state of Maine or whether it's anywhere, at least in the United States, possibly in the world right now, it's the return to what this new normal thing that we call education is. The data of the last 2 years, COVID year 1, COVID year 2, is a stark reality, a reminder of the impact of the coronavirus on our youth and living in a world that has something like that. So I think that's one thing to realize is we're really working hard to provide kids with that. They're no longer sitting at home with this and using a lot of social media and getting drawn into that vortex where they can't break off from it. And it hasn't particularly been demonstrated that it's been a positive experience for kids over the last 2 years. Largely, I think most of the research pieces say wasn't good. We are seeing a significant increase in students coming to school with diagnosed mental illnesses. As a matter of fact, right now, 50% of the identification for mental illness is before age 11. So the schools have to be prepared to respond to that. We've got to make places that are openly accessible to all students. We've got to deal with the social, emotional aspects. We've got to deal with the mental health pieces. I think making sure that families have their needs met, whether it's food insecurity, trying to help them. I was working with a family yesterday, trying to figure out how to help them with a housing situation that they're in. We want to be a resource, because if we can help support the family, then the family has less to deal with and can provide more support to their children. So I think social, emotional, mental illness, mental health, and wellness are incredibly important topics right now. I think also the catch-up growth that needs to occur from learning loss over the previous 2 years is of particular concern. And that there have been really strong intervention kinds of activity and very good use of data that as I come into the district, that I see that I go, well, that's good stuff right there. Is it making the difference? Is that difference, that catch-up growth, is that sustainable for kids if we no longer have those extra positions? So figuring out how to support students across the curriculum and across the levels of where kids are at to help ensure that they are proficient and able to successfully reach the end point of being a graduate from Mount Ararat High School, being college ready, being military ready, being career ready, whatever it is, the path that they want to take. How do we get them there? And it doesn't start by looking at them in the 12th grade. It starts back here. So here's a side note on a statistic. A 3rd grader in the United States who was reading at 1.5 to 2 years below grade level at the end of 3rd grade has a 50-50 chance of graduating from an American high school. If we know that 10,000 hours before that senior day, that's called graduation, what are we doing to ensure that kids aren't falling into the river and we have to try to fish them out later on. So that's a very important piece to me is how do we keep kids on a really good learning track? And what do we do if things are not working for kids? How flexible can we be? How nimble can our services be to turn on a dime and deal with another issue that needs to be done? Great, thank you.
I will tell you that third-party education portion you were talking about, the outside services.
Yes.
Is the greatest thing. My son was essentially the project for SAT 75 for something like Linda Bell.
Ah.
Because the district failed him.
Okay.
It is the greatest thing, and it turns around a kid in the school environment. And if anyone ever says anything else to you from within the district, they're absolutely incorrect. So it is a great thing, and it has been more than a year now, and it's very positive.
So I think that you're talking, the Nimu Bell, you're talking about research-based, scientifically based, lots of data on it,
Yep.
what it can do for students. You have to match the specific research-based strategy to the specific students.
Exactly.
So that's when you're likely to see success, especially when the home can support it as well. So it's a partnership.
And that's difficult for you guys, and I understand that, but it is, the home support and stuff, but
Yeah.
it is important that you guys continue that. It will. We've seen the numbers, you guys released the numbers at your last meeting of how difficult your road ahead is.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something that, although I never want to say spend money in your budget, but.
And I understand that.
And we're hired from Dave.
That's right.
You got it on TV. That's right. Okay. I appreciate the input. Thank you.
The only thing, last thing, and this really, Ruth asked, whenever she asked a question, you talked about, do me one favor, if you were a fool and sat here tonight and watched our entire meeting, you would see that if we have an agenda item, if somebody wanted to get up and speak, they were able to speak about it. Do you have the ability to make a suggestion to their school board that there's a back and forth, not just show up, make a statement, and then nobody can ever provide additional information?
So I don't know I don't know the statutes that a town council has that governs how public input is dealt with. I do know the statutes for the school environment, and if this is the statutory kind of setting that's being followed from municipalities, it's not the same as it is in the statutory requirements for schools. So there's school statute, there's school policy that talks about the input sessions and the board doing its business in front of the public and allowing the public input. I would say that's the intent of that is not to limit somebody's opportunity to have input on the topic. So if someone does end up in a situation where they feel like they have not had a chance to be heard, I'm going to listen. Can I say that it's going to be stop what's happening at a school board time and turn the floor over? I cannot say that. It doesn't follow the statute or the policy, but I can say I'm going to be available and listen.
To follow up on that, that's where I've been to a few board meetings, and that's where some of the frustration comes, because parents don't feel they have the opportune time to speak. And once I was there, all the people could speak at the end of the agenda, not at the beginning and stuff. So
Was that like last year? I don't.
yes.
No, I was going to say, I don't think we've done that.
And so it's things like that, that parents, it causes frustration with the parents. And the parents leave with a negative feeling.
Hmm.
And so that's,
Yeah.
causes.
And I know that's one of the two spots that matches up with policy is that you provide certain amount of time at the beginning, and it's up to the board chair to provide time at the end. So I'm definitely more in favor of giving people an opportunity to have their say early on in a meeting.
People that's heard get released a lot.
I'm sorry?
People that's heard, whether they agree or not, if they're able to speak their
Yeah.
mind, whether they're right or not, it just gives them a release,
Yes.
as long as they do it in a positive way.
Yeah, and there are topics that we all know that if people come before you folks to talk about, that you say, well, wait, that's, that's a personnel matter, that's something, we can't talk about that in a public setting, but we have people who are available to you to be able to listen to those concerns. Same thing, somebody might want to talk about something that Frank Wright, as current chair, might say, well, we can't have that topic during public discussion. That doesn't mean I can't sit down with someone. And one of my goals is to try to help people resolve situations and get questions answered I refer to it as closest to the front. Is it at a school level? Has the teacher had a chance to deal with this? Has a principal or a special education director or something like that? Because lots of times people, when they get angry, they lose sense of that sort of thing. And they may just email a board member, or they may just, I'll get a phone call and I'll get this thing to a recording going, oh, something's not working well there. I think I should give somebody a call, and I'll check with the principal and they'll say, I don't know anything about that yet. So, sometimes people might feel, why is that guy putting me off on this? He's trying to get you the answer with the people that have the most knowledge. But you face that, I'm sure, from time to time as well. Well, lucky guess.
Anything else for Mr. Conlon? Thank you, Steve. See you tomorrow night.
I'm gonna be having a back
Steve, we'll see you tomorrow
procedure.
night.
I'm gonna be having a back procedure tomorrow night, so tomorrow afternoon, so.
Well, actually, Jeff may have got it, so you can stream it, so I expect.
Well, I was talking to him today about the camera, saying, please tell me that camera is working, because I gotta be doing the live. I gotta be doing the live stream on it. I'd rather be at a game, put it that way.
Well, then we'll
Thank
see you next
I
time.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. Public comment? Nothing. The only comment I'll make is tomorrow night, 6 p.m., South Regional Finals, Monera High School football. You're just gonna sit home and play on your phone, so come on over to the high school and watch the game.
Where they're playing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome victory.
no other public comment. Correspondence, let me open it up. You had one?
No,
Oh.
we didn't.
The library is sent me. So Roland and Ruth are currently the representatives to the library. I'll send the email, but we probably should talk who wants to do it this year, who doesn't want to do it. Who's interested, who doesn't want to be one of the two, who does want to be one of the two. Does anybody want to continue the project?
Still,
I'll do it. All right. November 14th, 6:30 p.m. I'll send you the email. So those are our reps then. That's our correspondence. Anyone have anything else?
Just have a quick update on the Lower Road Rail Corridor Council. I did get an email from DOT that's getting kicked off, hopefully later this month or early December.
Where will they do that, Matt?
I think the first one's gonna be via Zoom. So there'll definitely be an opportunity to do them, I would imagine. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda. I am going to make a motion that we take 2291 and move it to the front of the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Motion seconded, all in favor. Okay. Consent calendar, approval of the minutes, regular select board meeting, October 20, 2022. Second. All those in favor? Boom, boom, boom. 2291. Consideration any appropriate action to accept a permanent easement from William and Jane Littlefield for the portion of the town landing pedestrian trail which crosses their property, and authorize the town manager to sign the instrument acknowledging its acceptance. Mr. Assistant Governor.
Good evening, Mark Waltz, Assistant Town Manager. Back in 2014, when the River Landing or Topsham Town Landing Trail was being developed, the Littlefields were generous enough to give the town an easement to allow the public to do a pedestrian cross of their property. If you've ever been on it, beautiful, the view of the river and things, and you can see eagles and everything else. Mr. Littlefield reached out to us a few months ago and he said, hey, this has worked so well, I'd like to make the easement permanent. Can you prepare the documents? So we took the 2014 easement, basically just updated the dates. The terms are the same as what they gave at that time. In a second, I'll turn it over to Mr. Littlefield, but just would like to, on behalf of, I'm sure the entire town, would like to thank the Littlefields for being so generous and sharing their property with the town. And so, Bill, anything you'd like to say?
I just say that, Bill, I'm sorry, you have to come out. You wanted to speak, you gotta pay the price.
Yeah, we have a childhood home. I grew up in that house. We always had access to the river, but the other people did not. And Jane and I felt that it would be better to make a permanent easement to meet up with the Brunswick Thompson Land Trust, which owns the other piece of the property. And of course, the town owns Town Landing Road, which goes to the edge of the river. So that would complete a permanent setup well after we're gone, and we'll be happy if the town would accept that.
I don't see any objection.
I've been gracious offer.
We appreciate that. Any questions, anyone?
I just have a statement. It's a beautiful walk and worked with Mr. Littlefield a lot, researching and finding out the right of ways and not for quite a while. So it's beautiful and I, for one, really appreciate it.
You want to make a motion? Let me just read this here, I guess. Proposed motion to accept a permanent easement from William and Jane Littlefield for the portion of the Town Landing pedestrian trail which crosses their property, and authorize the town manager to sign the instrument acknowledging its acceptance. Motion and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 5, yes. 2286, backward now. Consideration any appropriate action to allow the Topsham Trail Riders Snowmobile Club request for an ATV access route to be granted from our trail system to Rusty's utilizing Tedford Road.
So you, as the select board, have the power to designate a municipal road as an ATV access route. You can designate, if you don't say otherwise, it's the extreme right, but if you think deem it safer to use it in a different way, you can recommend or say it be used in a different way. So tonight I've got Jenny Littlefield here, sorry, Jenny Little. No relation to Bill, different name. But Jenny is the incoming president of the Topsham Trail Riders, and she'd like to make a request that the town consider making Tedford Road an ATV access route.
Thank you very much and good evening. As the nice introduction, yes, my name is Jenny Little and I am the, I guess, newly elected president for Topsham Trail Riders. Some of you may have known our previous president, Matt Abbott. Unfortunately, he has a new chapter that has just begun. So he has graciously bestowed, and I'm happy to, he has big shoes to fill, but I'm hoping to attempt. And I think a lot of you may know some of our folks who are here. We have been an affluent member of the community for the past 20 years. And I think we're looking to deepen our relationship, and we have a trail that does come very close, crosses right on over Tedford Road, and we'd like to extend the opportunity to folks who visit our town to have the opportunity for some food and fuel. And so we did meet about a month or so ago with some of the folks, town staff, and a lot of between Chief McLaughlin and Chief Hagan. Discuss the options as to what should be considered, what's the safest route. And I believe it was suggested to go right down with traffic at the speed limit. And yeah, so we would just like consideration. Thank you.
I was just thinking, so our next step is to move this to a public hearing on December 15th. So I have zero problem with this, right? But I don't live on Tedford Road. And it's not the Topsham Trail Riders I'm worried about.
It's anyone else. Do we have, so two things I would like to see. I would like to see the town for this public hearing, send notice to residents of Tedford Road. Not just a newspaper ad that it's happening, let them really know so they get a chance to speak. And then the other thing, without the public hearing, we'll see, but I'm leaning towards right off the bat, it's not the Topsham Trail Riders I worry about. It's the other
That's fair. Oh,
fools.
sorry.
If we were to do this on a. How, I mean, do we just approve it and then we come back to it, or can we have, we'll take a look, we'll give a temporary approval for 9 or 12 months and to revisit it and see if there had been issues. Which I was why we can do that. Because I just worry about dumb people.
With thinking about the dates for the public hearing, it gives us time to make sure that everybody's notified within that route. And get response, so we can immediately start getting those cards out and the other email lists this week coming up. Give people more time to think about it.
Does that make sense to the board, those couple things? Because we see it all around the state and it works perfectly fine, but usually don't see it. You see it in the downtown area, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's an agenda that will soon come up, I'm sure, for us in sometime in the future that we'd like to expand to different other areas of Topsham, but yes. But you're right, you do see it more in the downtown, but
So I have no problem moving this forward in my opinion, but those are the two things that I would think that we need to do for that public hearing. So I guess we don't need to make a motion. Do you need a motion out of this?
Probably a motion to set a public hearing.
right.
December 15th, would you write that was for us? I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing for December 15th to public hear the Topsham Trail Riders request for an ATV access route from their trail system to Rusty's utilizing Tedford Road.
Second.
Motion and seconded, all those in favor?
To recuse myself.
Oh, yeah. No. He's gonna make money out of it.
I didn't get it.
He's in Matt's out because he's
Matt's
a
out.
member of the board.
Okay.
He's gonna sell watermelon.
Oysters.
I thought it was oysters.
Oysters.
Thank you.
Whatever you're calling it. 2288, consideration and appropriate action on an application to license games of chance from the American Cribbage Congress. Two things that I did not know, that cribbage was a game of chance. Come on up.
It depends on who you speak to in the state of Maine.
Oh, we're gonna have a turf battle?
Excuse me?
We're gonna have a turf battle?
No. All of that's been done. The
Oh. Patty needs your names.
I'm sorry,
Patty needs your.
Joseph Bowen, Bowen.
Thank you.
And I do have a copy of the flyer if anybody wants one.
I think we had.
You probably do have them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take it. I thought it was. No, it's just the application.
That's the actual tournament flyer. The application you guys or your town clerk has.
That's in our packet.
Yep. May I explain my comment as I was coming out?
Sure.
The debate about 12 or 14 years ago, a lot of people don't know this, but cribbage is considered illegal in the state of Maine. However, what we did, we went in and presented, we were able to get several laws changed through a permit process. What the people that make those choices of those laws, their whole thing was if it's a deck of cards, it's got to be gambling. So in between, I probably presented 8 or 9 times. And what their own definition is if it's a tournament, hence golf, I'm a big wrestler, so wrestling tournaments, anything that the town could do as a tournament. Once you start the tournament, there is no more entry fees. You can't throw $5 under the table. I have played cribbage with some people who, hey, I'm better than you, I'm gonna bet 5. We're gonna bet a beer. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on. So in the process with the state, what I have to do is, I meet with the, organization that we want to do the tournament at, which I've done. I came down with one of the representatives. Actually, Topsham has 2 of the best cribbage players in the nation. Lori and Jerry Hardy. I don't know if anybody knows them. They've been around here half or forever. It is going to be a tournament they're going to take over in a couple of years. My next process was I came to the town, dropped off the application. This is kind of a normal where I'm going to present to people. So basically what it boils down to is so the process has already started. I've already gotten entries for this tournament. It's in April, so I had to take a few. If you guys approve this, that's pretty much it. That's like I've done probably 50 tournaments in the last 5 or 6 years. The state had an issue with the cost. They considered high stakes cribbage. But again, as long as I use the application, fill it out, get everybody's approval. We just did one last weekend up in Brewer. I personally am doing, I think, 9 or 10 tournaments a year throughout the state.
$60 is high stakes to the state.
I laugh at that. I will tell you, I have been into some cribbage tournaments. Not trying to brag, but if you know poker, which we are not, I've played in cribbage games that it's a $500 entry. That's high stakes.
Yeah, I agree.
So anything over $100, we're not allowed to do. We are in the process of going back in and getting a few things modified. Because the committee that set on all that said, let's give this a couple of years. If everything goes fine, then let's readdress some of the more issues.
Any questions on this? I think it's pretty neat. I guess I'll make a motion. Anyone, so we agree to the application to license Game of Chance to the American Cribbage Congress for April 30th, 2023 at the Topsham Range Hall. Second. Motion then seconded. All those in favor? You want a part of that now?
Not yet.
Just real quick, part of this, if you'll look on the application, any community we do this in, we have to donate a set amount of money that's determined after the tournament. We chose here, I've always known it as the animal rescue in Brunswick. I still to this day own a min pin that we rescued. We raise miniature dachshunds, so there's a dachshund fund that gets it. We've been very fortunate. Every community we've ever done this in, they love that we have to give to a charitable organization. So that's it.
So, yeah, Brunswick Animal Shelter.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
No, it's a good thing to point out.
yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Am I clear to go?
Yes, you can run home.
Thank you.
But I'm gonna go back in time.
It's a 2-hour drive. So.
Wow.
I live near Elbrook.
My wife has tried to teach me cribbage probably 70 or 80 times over the span of our marriage. It just never clicked with us.
You guys have the flyer. Everybody's more than come to play.
I think it might have did.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So we're gonna go back in time. My check marks got out of hand to 2287. Consideration any appropriate action to authorize the release of a request for proposals for a community center needs assessment. I am so sorry.
Okay, I'm Leslie Byrne, and I am part of the Community Center, Topsham Community Center Committee, and I'm here to just take questions and see what you all think about the request for proposal that's been written by Mark and reviewed by us, and see how you're feeling about it.
So
I think it looks great. My own question, I think, is more for Derek than anyone else. In terms of budget, what do we have? Is there anything set aside for this?
We have the Topsham Community Fund, which is the fund that we're gonna initially take out of the monies for, as we proceeded with this project,
So we have a decent amount then.
depending on what the RFP comes in.
Yeah.
Started with.
Can we say that louder? No.
We have to check,
I think it's all listing.
Okay, okay,
we have to
you
check.
let me know.
I just want to be sure.
Yes, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I've been.
Okay, okay. Anything else? Or not? No, thank you. We'll keep you posted. Yeah, we'll release it tomorrow. We have looked at local consultants that will be reaching out to and making sure that they get it, as well as in a bigger, broader scope.
We're gonna do it now. Now you can.
I moved to authorize the release of the request for proposal for community center needs assessment.
Second. All in favor? Unanimous.
Great. And as you'll note.
Now you can release it.
Thank
tomorrow.
you, yeah. And then we want all the requests back by December 16th, and then we'll be back in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check this out. 2289, consideration and appropriate action to accept $14,960.38 from the Midcoast Council of Governments and apply the money towards the purchase of AEDs and e-citation printers for the cruisers. Chief.
Evening, Mark Hagan, Chief of Police. So in April, a representative from the Midcoast Council of Government reached out to me and said that their agency was doing a law enforcement purchasing program. And that if we had the equipment that we felt we were in need of, to reach out to them with a request by a certain date that was in May. So I did reply and said that we were in need of 6 additional AEDs for our cruisers, as well as 8 e-citation printers also for our cruisers. So for those that aren't aware, an e-citation printer is just it's a printer that goes in a car. In our case, I think we'd be putting on the passenger headrest in place of the headrest. And so when you think of an officer writing you a summons, normally they go back to the vehicle and fill everything out by hand. What happens now with these e-citation printers is they fill everything in, it prints out a copy of the summons, you give it to the person, and additionally, it submits the summons straight to Augusta, to the Department of Motor Vehicles, so that we don't have to send it up. So it's just all taken care of. That way, we don't have to have personnel mail everything up. So I put in for 8 of those as well. The total price was $14,960.38. In October, the same representative from MCOG reached out and said that they were accepting our request. There are no matching funds for this. And so I told them that I would go over to you folks and see if we could accept the money.
So just so I understand, the citation printers. Officer punches it into the laptop. And it's not that it's going to a third-party vendor to send it off, it's going within your controlled system, and that information stays.
Yeah, it's I'm not really IT. I'm sorry?
It must be Bluetooth, isn't it?
Yeah, so to be honest, when the third-party company would come down to install the printers, somebody from the state would come down as well to make sure the installation went correctly.
I was just wondering if it gets sent off to a processing company.
No,
Okay.
it's going, a lot of agencies in the state of Maine already have this.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Any questions from the chief? Anyone make a motion?
One of these AEDs, they might be going program.
I'll make a motion that we accept $14,960.38 from the Midcoast Council of Governments to apply that money towards the purchase of AEDs and e-citation printers for our police department's cruisers. Motion seconded, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. 2290, consideration and appropriate action to authorize the treasurer to convey to Julia Baca Vaca, the real property located at 0 Willis Road, map R9, lot 52-A, for the sum of $2,235.88. And Fry Island, map R11, lot 43, for the sum of $1,165.65, provided the payments are made by November 8, 2022. Assistant Town Manager.
Good evening again. These are two parcels that the town acquired because of foreclosed tax liens on March 3rd of this year. In accordance with our tax acquired property policy, I reached out to I thought I was reaching out to the owner to see if he would like to make an offer to try to get this property back. And when I talked to the person that the tax bill was going to, the residents, I found out that the person who'd been billing had died. So this property back in 1992 was deeded to two brothers. It's an 18-acre piece at the back of Willis Road, and then Fry Island, which is in the Androscoggin, just south of the state-owned Mustard Island. So the woman that I talked to said that her husband was Mark Robinson and that he had died back in 2017. And he was always the one the tax bills went to. She said no estate was ever probated for him. And then he had a brother, Elliot. So I asked about Elliot, and she said Elliot's dead. And no estate was ever probated for Elliot. The third brother was Paul Robinson. An estate was probated for Paul. And there was a deed of distribution to three of his kids, one of which was Julia Vaca, giving his interest in the island to them. So they have about a 1/9 interest each at this point. But because of the fact they never got any tax bills or notices of liens or anything else, we reached out to the town attorney to find out if we thought the foreclosure had been thorough enough or not. He said, at least regarding those three, because of the fact we knew they were owners because there was a deed recorded, he recommended we renotice the foreclosure, give them an opportunity to make an offer. When we did that, they reached out and they decided that among them that Julia Vaca would be the one that would offer to purchase it back. The other thing the town attorney told us is we don't have to try to figure out the probate stuff and who's got what interest in the property. He said, as long as we deed it back to someone that was a deeded owner, the rest is up to them to solve. You know, they can work out amongst their family or have probate done or whatever they want to do. So tonight, the offer you have from Julia Vaca includes all the back taxes plus interest for the years, also includes the recording fees for the deed to get it back in their name. And also includes the fees that we pay to do lien notices and things along the way. So the town would be whole if these offers were accepted and the interest is through November 8th. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
I will make a motion to authorize the treasurer to convey to Julia Vaca the real property located at 0 Willis Road, map R9, lot 52-A, for the sum of $2,235.88, and Fry Island, map R11, lot 43, for the sum of $1,165.65, provided the payments are made by November 8, 2022. Second. Motion seconded. All in favor? Matt, take us home.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor. We're up.